Morning.
Hi, and everyone here. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Luke here, and Ash.
Ash from the Bower, and we're here today. We're out at Holsworthy. We're currently sitting inside the tiny house that we're going to spend about the next hour or so talking about. Unfortunately, we can't be sitting outside the tiny house. We could just be sitting in a room, probably closer to our homes. But unfortunately, it's about to rain.
Which sucks because it was a beautiful morning this morning.
Yeah.
But it's very cozy inside the tiny house.
It is.
One could almost live here.
Yes, I could. I
Totally.
could. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if it starts raining, there might be a bit of rain on the corrugated roof, which might be a bit noisy. Being inside also stops all the noise of all the birds that are flying around.
The cockatoos that are squawking at the moment.
Yeah. But I mean, it is quite nice having such a little house connected with the outdoors that allows such beautiful nature sounds to come in.
Out at Holsworthy. We're in the middle of Sydney, but there's a bit of green around, and it's actually really lovely to be sort of in this nice little cosy abode. But yes, connected to nature.
Yes.
In a small way. So today this is obviously it's a live feed. We've because you probably know that because you've tuned in. But this is a new program that we've started doing in replacement of our repair cafes, which have stopped due to COVID. So last week we did something at the electrical department. The week before that, the woodworks department, and we intend to continue with that sort of stuff. Today, though, as Ash said, we're out here at the tiny house to sort of talk a little bit about tiny houses. It's getting auctioned this evening at 6 o'clock. The bidding's already started. There's a bid of 20 grand on it so far, but the bidding goes live at 6 o'clock on Raffin, Kelleher and Thomas, which is an auction house. So if you go to the Bower website, there'll be a link and you'll go to their website and you can register to bid. So with that in mind, we're doing this today to sort of just talk tiny houses, share kind of some of our experiences and answer your questions if you have any. So if you have questions, please fire them to us. And Shane's here as usual in the background. He just waved, and he can pass on your questions to us.
Yes. For example, I mean, we're just giving a bit of an intro, but I have a friend at the moment, and he just, perhaps you haven't thought of buying this tiny house, but I mean, this next hour might convince you, which would be great.
But my friend, if we can convince him to.
Yeah, imagine that. My friend Sean, he is looking to buy a block of land in the Blue Mountains, and purchasing something like this would allow you to, set up immediately and spend time on a bit of land prior to commencing to build something.
Yeah,
which
like
is what I
base of operations type thing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we've both lived in sort of small living situations ourselves. Actually, the last place I lived in before where I am now was plane going on right now. There's a plane. We'll pause for plane.
It's probably time at home in the interweb.
Yeah, it is. It's totally. We are actually out at Holsworthy. We're not just in Marrickville on the flight path. This is the Bankstown airport that you're hearing planes flying over from. But yeah, I lived in a space that was very similar to this. It was about this size. It had a loft bed, a big loft bed that sort of, made a second space, and it was fantastic. Like having a small space was less time to clean. It limited the amount of things that I could have. So I just had a select few things that I really liked.
Yeah. Did you have a door onto a garden, or was it into?
I did have a door. I did have a door onto a garden.
Which was similar to this. Then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and I have a very small kitchen that looked out onto the garden, so that garden became part of my space.
Nice.
So as much as this is a small space, it's very expansive because you've got all these windows looking out onto wide open spaces, which in many ways is much less claustrophobic than.
Yeah, if it encourages you to be outside more, I think that's definitely one of the benefits of living in small places. Yes,
absolutely.
Very much changes the way you live, along with, how much money you spend on your particularly the living in the city, and everyone in Sydney talking about how expensive things are. If you can change your behaviour patterns to not, require probably the biggest investment you will need to make, which is a house.
Yeah. Totally. A mortgage, like a lifetime of mortgage, a lifetime of debt.
Yeah.
Or 20 grand. Or better yet, learn how to build one and build one yourself.
That sounds great.
Do you guys remember what the last tiny house sold for?
There was two, and I think it was about 17 and 18 large.
Yeah, which was great, and they were really cute little houses as well. They had you'd be able to find pictures of them online, but they had
I think
more
so.
pitch.
I think they had a gable roof on them. Yeah.
and we tried to track down details of these, but they were sold to a couple of a family maybe, and they ran a caravan park up north. And I called them last week, and they have, I think one was being used for the reception of the caravan park for the past 2 years, and they've since started fitting it out as a house. We're trying to track down some photos, but
yeah, but I think there are a couple online. Perhaps not of what they've become right now. Maybe we can get some of those in the future as well to demonstrate what people do with them on the inside.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some photographs of them up on the website of that design. This one's a bit slightly different. So, well, I guess the next question is why do we do this? Why do we build tiny houses? Why does the Bauer reuse and repair centre build tiny houses?
Yeah, I guess. So, but introduced that the Bauer runs a course to build the tiny house.
Yes.
And they've been doing that for 5 or so years, or?
I don't think that long. No.
But they've built
maybe
a few. Have they built a few?
I think we've built. I think we've built 3. I think it's been running for 3 years, maybe.
So you built the 2 at the same time last time? Was that right?
No, we built 2 over
okay.
a year or a year and a half or something.
One was sitting around for
One was sitting around for a while. I think we didn't do an auction one year, so we sold it on the next auction.
Yeah.
But it started with James Gallaty, the upcyclist, who has led the course, and he built as an example of how to use reclaimed materials for building. Basically, he built a very small tiny house out the front of the Bowers shop in Marrickville on the back of a box trailer, like a very micro tiny house, a really, really small one.
Cool.
And from there we started making these courses, and I guess the main thing is for us to demonstrate using reclaimed materials in building. All the materials that we use, or majority of the materials that we use in building this house, is all second-hand.
If you come into the Marrickville store, obviously there's lots of furniture and things inside. There's furniture, a lot of sort of household items that you would fit out inside your house. But there was also out the back of the Marrickville store, there's also all sorts of construction materials, lots of old windows, tiles, timber,
doors,
toilets,
heaps of toilets, heaps of sinks,
heaps of toilets and sinks, if you need any, and
at a bargain basement price. And clean.
And so it lends itself to, obviously, the Bauer itself to construction and building. The courses that we're involved with at the workshop include, fixing furniture, but there's also, I think we spoke about this the other week, a home DIY course, which is also, teaching people how to be handy and intertwining that with reusing materials. And so this encompasses all of those things, I think, in being handy, reusing things.
Yeah, and giving people the skills to do that as well.
And reducing environmental impact, of course, which is the Bowers all.
Yeah, for sure. It always comes back to lowering your carbon footprint. And sometimes, like working with reclaimed materials, you need certain skills in order, or some skills are handy. So we do these courses in order to give people those skills. And this one is perfect for your not only building tiny houses, but just regular home maintenance and small renovations and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's at a good stage, I guess, now at the moment where it's less daunting. All the sort of real heavier bits are kind of already built in. And so then this is all bare and you can fit out as you want. And there's an infinite amount of ways you can do that, which is super cool.
And it's kind of, for someone that perhaps doesn't have that much experience with that sort of stuff. So we've got this tiny house at the moment at a sort of weatherproof, locked up stage. But as you can see, like the studs and rafters and everything are open. So you're kind of looking inside the building of this tiny house, so you can kind of get an idea of how it is all put together. Yeah.
Yep.
Technical details. That's what we're going to talk about next.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so this tiny house is built on a brand new trailer. There's different options. I guess that box trailer that you were talking about was a different size trailer.
Yeah, box trailer. So I think that's it's 5 by 8 foot, I think, is your regular box trailer.
What did he build on that?
It was like it was
5 by 8 foot.
So you could stand. You could just stand up in it.
Yeah.
But it was essentially a bed and some little spaces for stuff. Like it was a mega tent.
Nice. And it had a loft as well, though. Yeah.
No loft. No. Just, you could just stand up in it. And,
Yeah. Okay.
It actually got featured in a book about tiny houses.
Oh right. Oh, that's cool. I haven't seen that. Which is very much you'd be living outside and kind of sleeping inside.
Yeah,
I guess.
totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah, which is fun.
Different lifestyle.
Sorry, technical details though.
details.
The trailer is a brand new standard trailer that they purchased.
Yeah, so it's a kind of standardized trailer size. It's a 3-ton trailer. It's what is it? I'm thinking width 2.5 wide.
Yep, about 4.5. Oh no,
No, it's about
4.7 or
4.8, I think. Long 3-ton trailer, galvanized steel, painted black. It's got electric brakes on all the wheels. It's got like a cutaway braking system, so if it becomes detached from your vehicle for whatever reason, it's going to brake automatically. Like all the kind of specifics that you need for a trailer of this size. Sort of a heavy-duty jockey wheel at the front. The drawbar is 1.4 metres, so the bit that attaches the tiny house to the back of your car is 1.4 metres. There's a bit of extra room for storage there. What else? Size of the tiny house?
Yeah. So then the trailer's brand new, but then the tiny house itself is the trailer sort of serves as the foundations and like the bearers of a normal building, and then they start to put the timber joists, and then the tiny house goes on top, and so the tiny house is tied to the trailer with these little metal tabs that maybe James has welded on.
No, that was specifically done. So we got that for the tiny house.
Yeah.
We got those tabs welded onto the cross pieces of the trailer in order to be able to attach the tiny house to the trailer, which gets us onto the registration.
Yeah, and then then the tiny house is bolted to those metal tabs. In that technically the tiny house is removable from the trailer, which helps in the vague sort of legislation of tiny houses in New South Wales, at least.
Yeah, so
in that it's still sort of a caravan, or
well, you can register. You could register this as a caravan, but you can also register this as a removable load on top of the trailer, which is what we've done for this at the moment. And so in order to do that, it has to be removable, which it is. It's bolted to these tabs on the bottom of the trailer, so you could theoretically pick this tiny house up and put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so that's what the registration. I think there's a 6 month. It's registered for another 6 months.
Yeah.
So and because it's a new trailer as well, I believe you don't have to go in for every year. It needs to be registered every year. But you just have to, for the first 5 years, you just have to pay that registration. You don't need any kind of green slip or trailer version green slip or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then I guess internal dimensions.
Internally, we just measured was 2.2 wide. 2.1 wide.
2.1 wide internally.
And then 4.6 long internally.
And I don't know how tall it is. At the tallest spot.
Yeah.
It is.
From the outside, you're to get registered. The tiny house has to be less than 4.3 externally. So that's from the ground to the top of the roof.
Which it is. It's just under 4.2, and that is 3 point. My eyesight's not very good. 3.2. So 3.2 high.
3.2 high.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the little walkthrough video, I think we said it was 4 point
Did we?
something high.
We were mistaken.
A little bit wrong.
But it's, outside it is 4 point. It's just under 4.2.
Yeah.
So if you've got a garage you want to put it in,
yeah.
make sure it's that high.
Yeah. Also the consideration about the towing capacity of your vehicle. I think a lot of
that
our
is
cars,
important. Yeah.
But in the booklet for the course, I know that they touch on that you can move these around. You just put them on a flatbed trailer as well. Instead of towing them.
Yeah, you could. Yeah,
if you're going a long distance.
Yeah, like you could put them on skids or
registration.
something like that, so they can get pulled up onto the back of a truck. Totally. Yeah, you can totally do that.
But yeah, you can tow it. Borrow instead of buying a new big car, move around, just borrow someone's car.
Yeah. Rent a car. Rent it like a Land Cruiser or something like it. There's look up your towing capacity, but it's a 3-ton. This has got a max weight of 3 tons. Currently, it weighs 2.3 tons. So that's the trailer. That's everything. The trailer and the house on top of it.
So I've got about a ton to fit it out.
700 kilos,
Okay.
to fit it out, which is a lot.
But having consideration for all those things is a massive aspect of building these things. Particularly, do have that. The weight is massive. The length can be quite long, and then the width as well. Before you get to wide load, has to be under 2.5.
Yep.
But that's why they've chosen instead of using hardwoods, which you find a lot of hardwoods around the place at the Bower and online on Gumtree in terms of recycling. but they've used Oregon, which is what was used for a lot of framing.
Yeah.
And Oregon's like a lighter weight, still strong capacity timber. You can also use aluminium framing. Which would be light, very light as well. But particularly with DIY sort of homemakers, having the timber joist on top of the trailer, and then the timber framing is just a lot easier to work with.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's very, probably easier in terms of recycling.
And it's abundant as well. There's so much of this stuff going to waste. Obviously, we work in this field, so we're always getting offers for it. But if you're looking for this sort of stuff, when you go past a demolition, go in and chat to the builder, and like they want to get rid of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just going in the bin for free. And there's all this beautiful old timber, hardwood. Yeah, a lot of Oregon. Going away, and eventually it will run out because they're not making houses out of this timber anymore. They're making it out of plantation pine. So there's this lovely sort of a lot of it's old growth Oregon, which is beautiful timber, going to waste. So we need to take advantage of that and sort of re-harvest it. Yeah. See,
timber. So this here is ply bracing, which is on the outside of the framing. But the roof has a diagonal metal strap bracing, but this is very strong, and this is all over the external.
So it stops
walls.
that wall from racking like that, and it stops in every direction because it's glued and screwed all the way around. So that's very strong construction. And
then you also have these tie downs that run from the roof all the way through.
Can you guys see these? Or
I can try and
see that one in the corner there. So this is like when you're dealing with a tiny house, particularly when it's on the road, it's going to be dealing with a lot of wind issues that you wouldn't otherwise perhaps experience in a regular house, depending on where you are. So tying it all together is really important, so that we've got these threaded rods that go all the way from the trailer to the top rafter.
There's one up there.
Pulling it all down, and there's extra strapping over the tops of the studs to make sure that it's being held very tight for all of that stuff. What else? There's the sarking, so the weatherproofing that's underneath the corrugated iron that's on the outside and on the roof and the weatherboards is a semi-permeable sarking. So what it does is it allows moisture that can build up in a house like this to actually kind of get out through that membrane, but then when it hits the corrugated iron and condenses, say on the roof for example, it stops it from dropping back in. So it allows moisture to escape, vapor to escape, sorry I should say, and then stops moisture coming in. So that's something that we've chosen to do specifically for these little tiny houses to stop that condensation and moisture issues.
Yeah, but generally it's all the sort of technical details.
Yeah. I mean, you can't see it now as well, but behind the camera where Shane is, I've got to say as well, we have a brief walkthrough that we filmed the other week that's up on the website. So if you want to go and check that out to see more of the house, there's an outside. There's two. One that's just the outside, and one where we come in and look around. You can get a better idea of what this place looks like. But we do have a built-in loft behind us in the camera. So the windows, these windows are beautiful. It's a nice big window that we have, but there's also another 4 windows behind the camera, 3 down and then 1 up in the loft.
And being that James has built a few of these, they would have a bit of an indication of how the layout is going to work. The windows, I would say, are going to dictate that a little bit, being that particularly this nice window at the end, which again you'll be able to see is a nice sort of LED light glass window.
LED light. Feature window.
Yeah, feature window. I'd say you'd want to see that from everywhere. So you wouldn't want to enclose that with like a wall, particularly if that end. But I think that end lends itself towards fitting out with the kitchen and the bathroom.
Maybe a little composting toilet or something.
Yeah. And so composting toilets are great. It's obviously a bit of a scary thing.
It's actually funny to say that there's a composting toilet here.
Is there?
Which smells delightful.
Yeah, what did you put in it when you...
rice husks.
Did you do just aware? We've probably got there to touch on that, do we? But often when you go to these composting toilets, I think a lot of people are quite scared of them because if you've driven, north or south on the freeway, what's wrong with everyone? And the toilets on the freeway are disgusting, and so I think that's what everyone thinks about when they
Yeah, but they've got it. Yeah,
but you're using sawdust and there's lots of different systems.
I think this one had some kind of ventilation system in there as well. There was a gentle breeze blowing as
it was necessary
as one uses it.
Oh, that's
but
great.
it was but yeah, I was surprised at how non-smelly it was. Anyway,
we're going to elaborate on this,
swiftly moving
but
on.
but yeah, about the fit out. That we should just suggested composting toilets. I just think that the idea of keeping it fully off grid is a great idea. In that
Yeah, totally.
you could get solar power, depending on how much you need. I know that my van has a solar panel on it, and with charging your phone, if you can get sun on it every day, charging your phone, and if you work from home and have a computer, it's fine. Particularly in the daytime when the sun's on it, the battery was always full.
Yeah, I mean, and you could, depending on where you are, if you have a piece of land to put this on, you can orient your house. If you've got your solar panels on the roof, you can orient your house facing north, so you get the best solar input.
And then water as well.
Yeah.
But then fridges is another big thing to consume a lot of energy. But then water usage as well. If you can there's not a lot of roof area on this, but and depending on where you are in terms of rainfall, yes. Getting looks.
So what next?
Yeah. Who knows?
Let me get one of your. Of course we run. So we're So have we not talked about that? Oh, we did. We touched on it briefly.
A little bit. So in the course, I haven't taken part in the course. This was built. It was earlier this year, say 2-3 months ago.
Yeah, something like that.
And so that was people all over Sydney. There were a few people down south. I met them because I was there for the first day of the course, and I helped just give a bit of a run through of the power tools that people will be using.
Oh, so you were there for that first day?
Just that first day, yeah. Or the first couple of hours at least. But I know James and Joe, who ran the course, they have come about. I think Joe's more of a traditional type carpenter, is he? Or builder?
And James is a carpenter and but interested in reclaimed materials, for sure.
And James came about building through more unconventional,
alternative building,
unconventional sort of means, but a lot of sort of green building. And it's nice the way that he pictures that, he doesn't have all the ideas, and people bring lots of interesting skill sets to the course.
Sure, yeah.
And so all the students, they were a range of different people. They all sort of brought their own tools, men and women, the older people, younger people. And I'd imagine it would have been a really good vibe.
And any kind of skill set as well. You don't need any prior knowledge of tools or anything like that. Like I said, the first day that they run the course, I think that's one of the first things they do is go through in fact, I know it's one of the first things they do. Go through all the power tools that we use in that course, and then from that point on, everyone's just on the tools building these things.
And I think construction sites are predominantly occupied by men. Is that a safe thing to say?
I'd say predominantly. Hopefully it's changing a little bit.
Yeah, and that can sort of lend itself to sort of a particular behaviour, which isn't always the case. It's a bit of a generalisation, but it can be intimidating, I think, for a lot of people. Yeah,
for sure. And I mean, that's we pride ourselves on that with our courses, that it is kind of a space where anyone with any kind of experience can come in and learn how to use tools and learn these skills. Like, it's not something you're born with. We all learn how to do it, and anyone can learn how to do it. So it's a good opportunity, and I think that's been reflected in some of the testimonials that were up on. I had a look at them last night up there.
But it's a 6-day course, and so a run through of each day would be. Would you?
It goes through all the sort of steps of building a tiny house. So I think the day one is getting the bearers down, attaching them to the trailer, and then perhaps do some of the flooring. Then we start building the frames of the house. So we build them on the ground, and then we sort of do a big barn raising all together. Put them on. Next is the roofing, obviously, and then we start with the waterproofing. The bracing, the weatherproofing, and then the external cladding and roofing. And so through the course, the 6-day course, everyone gets to have a go at it. They usually get almost finished, but by the time we're finished, everyone's had a go at kind of all these components. Oh, and installing windows and doors as well, and all the flashing that goes around them in order to waterproof them. Like one of the most important things in building a house is water and where it goes. And so that's something that's really important within the course, is that learning how to weatherproof your house and doing that properly is super important. So that's something that you'll definitely learn in that course.
If you can see all that shiny stuff.
Yeah, so this is the flashing here. So you'll see that this aluminium flashing is bent up like that, and so the idea being that water, if it does for any reason kind of hit that and come in, it can't come in. It runs out. So that's essentially how how flashing works. Yeah, and it dips down off the other side of the window. And interesting as well, the only hardwood I think we've used in the build are for the window sills in the bottom of the door, which is exposed outside. So we've got that there, so it's a bit more weatherproof as well.
What's the exterior cladding?
Corrugated iron on 3 sides, and then I'm not sure what the actual timber is. The weatherboard's out here.
Yeah, the iron cladding is obviously a more lightweight material than that timber cladding. The timber cladding, as you see, like as well as in the previous Bauer tiny houses, I think the aesthetic value of them kind of is quite important. And they do these little patches of the timber cladding, which is really nice. I think this cladding's really is super nice. If you did that everywhere, it would sort of increase the weight quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it's probably balancing those things quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing about using these reclaimed materials as well, is that you kind of it allows you to be creative. You can be creative with kind of often the materials you have a mismatch, but it's how you put those together sort of in a balanced way, and it can provide something
and it's magic.
interesting.
I think
it is
like
magic.
when you work with secondhand stuff, I feel like the materials that you get kind of dictate the direction a bit.
Yeah.
And like with a lot of designers, they have their sort of cold designer sort of footprint all over the things that they do, which I don't think is good. It's kind of nice when, things are a bit unintentional, or you might have a bit of a direction, but it changes as you go.
And that can be less wasteful as well if you're utilising what you have and not being rigid and specifically going for a certain thing. Like all the windows. The windows, these were the windows that we could get for this house, and so in a way that's kind of dictated the layout. They've been used kind of really sensitively and thoughtfully, but it's created this beautiful space.
And also, what's an example? Selecting different whites to paint the inside of your house, or selecting paint colours, or if you've got different sort of colour palettes. And there's just an infinite amount of different things that you can choose, and like there's so much choice is kind of
crippling.
And so it's quite difficult when things pop up. You work intuitively. It's I think the right decision comes easier, or you don't doubt it later on as well. You don't look at it and sort of say, that wire could be a bit more cream.
We've actually just me and my partner have painted our place, and we did it with predominantly we had a blue base. This is all paint that we got from the Bauer, which is $2 a litre, which if you ever bought paint is the cheapest paint in Sydney. It's all donated to us from painters and stuff that come in, and they do a job, and they, like Ash was saying, people want very specific colours, so what are they going to do with it? They donate it to us. And we had a big thing of blue base, a thing of grey, and a white, and from that we've painted 3 of the rooms in our house as different colours, just from mixing colours ourselves with that, which is super fun. We've got
and they're nice?
They are. They're different. They're bold, like bold in not in like glaringly bold, but like it's not just your white and your beige or your off-white or your egg or your other white variant.
Egg.
That's the colour.
The yolky egg white.
Eggshell.
Eggshell.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's quite cream.
So that's fun.
It is fun and it's really good. I also think it's more creative in that you constantly have to make design decisions as you go. It's not like sort of preparing this sort of design at the beginning and then you just lay on your trailer with all these brand new materials you bought. You kind of have to work things out as you go. End up with like a groovy little LED light window there, and little nuances. People might stress about having those things aligned. I don't know. It's all
which one's along? Sorry?
Oh, just the top of the door and the window. I've got lots of things.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's all good.
It's great. It's magic. So run the course. I guess from here, someone purchasing this house would have to. What else would they have to do in here?
Well, they've got to clad it, so they've got to put. So it's insulated at one end. So they'd have to put.
And the roof.
And the roof is insulated as well. Yeah, that's right. Roof and one wall. So they have to insulate and put internal cladding on the walls and the ceiling. They could put flooring down. There's plywood down at the moment. They could leave it at that, or they could put flooring on top, like a floating floor or something.
They have a tongue and groove floor underneath, but that's just more of a scrappy base.
That was just more of a I think they just put that in as
bracing on.
Yeah. And then from there, and then it's just so they've got to fit out the inside, but decide how you want to lay out your house.
Yeah. How did you fit out your little house? Maybe you don't need to elaborate on that, but apparently it's similar sort of layout. Yeah, like it was a small room and not the.
So what Ash is referring to is my old apartment I used to live in was this sort of size. Have we talked about this on camera already, or were we talking about it before?
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But the fit out is kind of the fun thing, and I think that would encourage people to buy these things more. In that it's so fun. I mean, people love little renovation shows, right? I know I have fitted out sort of a van before, which is sort of, I guess you've explained about your living in your house. I lived in a little van. I guess I couldn't afford to buy a house, and I wanted to build some things and be able to stay in something. I moved to Sydney. I was in the place for about a year, and then I just wanted something a bit more exciting. I think I've been fitting out my little van. It's a really little van, and I put a bed in it, and the bed sort of came apart and went back together like this, and it was sort of meant to be a couch.
So the bed slats kind of link into one another to form a couch, and then spread out for a bed. Very cool.
And so I lived at Bronte Beach it was only for about 3 weeks, which isn't that impressive really, because you see people.
I'm impressed. I think that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
So you see people doing it for years. A guy who used to work at the Bower, he's still in his big van, I guess, Dan.
I used to work with a guy when I worked in film sets, and he was a German guy, and he lived in his like van. He just lived at the beach, loved it, earning really good money.
Yeah.
Didn't need to live in a van on the beach, but just loved the lifestyle.
And I know it was a bit shocking. I know my boss at the time was quite shocked and concerned for me, but it was a choice. And it was. I got a full-time job. I was working 5 days. I just had to park at Bronte Beach, and I'd ride my bike to work and come back. The nice thing though about it was that every sort of decision I had to take in my day-to-day was really intentional, because Bronte's kind of fancy, didn't want to get in people's way and let them see sort of getting ready in the morning because it's a bit rude. And unpacking my bed would have to happen first thing in the morning as the sun comes up. Where I ate, when I cooked my food, where I showered, used the bathroom, was all sort of intentional, and that it had to sort of happen at the beach, where it was available, where there was the park. And living like that sounds kind of stressful, but it's really satisfying. That's what I think, having a house like this.
It's kind of encouraging you to live, spend more time outdoors.
Which I guess
we don't do enough of.
Yeah. And then I got offered a free room in my mate's house, and I moved out of my van. But I still like the idea of doing it. The van was obviously quite compact in that my whole bed took up the whole area. Having a little sort of area like this to just to hang around, particularly if it's raining or something. There's so many different ways you could do this. I just did this sketch now. What's the easy way to look at this? No, that's upside down. So if I bring this in here, Shane, can we see that?
Yeah.
Bit closer?
A little bit, but lower.
Bit lower?
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah.
So that orientation of this is the floor plan. So if you're looking at the floor from the tiny house from above, the windows down the bottom are where we're sitting. Those two that are opening up. So
this is your vision of how you would do this space out.
Yeah, just a little option. I guess with how the windows are, we're going to dictate where things can go. Like I said, with the LED light window, I don't think you'd want to block that up. We wouldn't want to block any of them up. Like having the light coming in is great. Yeah. The loft, I think, seems like it is the bed. I guess there'd be other ways that people could possibly do it.
I would definitely have the loft as the bed, but it becomes, from speaking from someone that's lived with a loft bed, it becomes a second room. Like it's a little chill out area that's separate. It becomes a separate space within this very small space.
And the loft, it looks as if running front to back, so from us to the LED light window, the length of the loft was over 2 meters. It was approximately 2 meters, which is the sort of length
it's almost half the tiny house.
Yeah, which is a standard bed, and then a queen size bed is about 1,500 wide. So you've got about
you could get a king size bed up there for sure.
You could, but then you've also got this kind of landing space. I think on the drawing I just did, I think when you're climbing up ladders, it's nice to get off ladders sideways as opposed to having a ladder, running up like this.
Yeah, there's an art to it. Once you kind of get the hang of it, it's not too bad.
Yeah, and so this is just a quick layout. So the line of the loft is about here.
Where are you guys sitting on this?
So we're sitting down here.
Yeah.
I put a very compact little bathroom in here, and a little hallway sort of coming up to access into there with the LED light window at the back. Maybe a little bench for a kitchen. You could have storage and things in there, which is a common layout that you see in most of these tiny houses built sort of around the place. As we mentioned in the walkthrough, there's potential to have another loft, which maybe you could have like another single bed or just another little thing that there's not much head height in the lofts. That's generally why they work well as beds, in that you're horizontal.
Yeah, no, but in buying a place like this, it forces you to figure out what's important to you and what do you've got limited space. There's only so much you can do. So what do you want to fit into a space like that, which is great.
Yeah. And so we've got a little bench. I'm like extending the sill of the window there. At the front door, it looks like you've got about 200 mil or so before the door starts. So at this point here, and so if you extended that sill, which is about 100 mil. And with another sort of 200 of bench space, you've got about like a 300 mil sort of little bench, which you could eat at. It's nice to sort of sit at that window as we are now.
And just hang out.
Yeah, and then if you did have a loft above here, it again, you're sort of sitting in this area, so maybe lends towards like a lower.
It would be a little bit higher the loft than the loft because of the height of the window. But
so it might be
more of a storage
area, or like if you did have a kid or something.
There is actually a lot of like high storage up on this left hand side on the top of the. Because with this tiny house, it's gone for a skillion roof, so it's not the gable roof design. It's just a sort of lightly angled roof like that, which allows a lot more space on the. Can they see that?
Yeah, you can kind of see that slant there.
Yeah, so it gives a lot more room. It allows that loft to be a lot more space. Like there is quite on this side, there is a reasonable amount of room on the loft. You can't stand up there. Whoa, maybe if you're very short, but it's still quite spacious.
Like a baby, you can stand up there.
I had my loft. When I was sitting up in bed, the roof was here.
Yeah, nice.
I just put my feet on the roof, which I always thought was kind of fun.
Oh, so you might think that you would have the bed on that side just because of the extra head height and the window.
Yeah, I would. I'd have the bed on this side, so you're kind of like next to the window. You got that nice like reading, sitting down, read a book sort of thing, and then over here you could just have more storage and.
Yeah, well, someone suggested open wardrobe storage for that second loft.
Yeah, totally.
It would be like a nice little almost wardrobe.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And a little ladder to sort of access it.
Yeah, in my old little studio, which I was saying was about this size, I used to have a mini workshop underneath my loft bed. Which, I mean, I like woodworking, so I wanted to do woodworking at home.
You just do it all the time, or
yeah, I was like all hand tool stuff. Like I can't get on the power tools, but I had a little bench and I could muck around, and anything is possible in this small space.
I found that when I fitted out my van, so the whole click-clacking together of instead of leaving the bed out all the time, allowed me to still have the full height of the van for half of its width, which meant I could still put things in furniture to move it around.
Yeah, still utilising that.
But then when it was out, I had drawers underneath, and I couldn't access the drawers when the bed was out, which was a pain. A lot of people, they'll have the drawer that pulls out to the rear, which operates as the kitchen. I've since seen another van that was fitted out, which was really no nonsense, just little panels you could pick up. The whole click-clacky bed thing's probably more complicated than it needs to be, which you figure out as I've sort of seen more and done more.
What would you do instead of that option?
I think it's important to have a little area where you can sit inside, and even though my van's really small, I think if you had, or the van that I saw, the back half of the van so the bed was made up of sort of two sort of half bits of the bed, and they fit on top of each other at the back of the van.
Of foam.
And then where the front of the bed is, this might not be making much sense, was where the sliding door was, and that was where you could sort of go in. And signs upside down, I don't understand. Move forward, and then you can sit there, and I think that's really important. So like this area here, sitting around, I think after doing that, I would do less in the at the get-go. I think there's a tendency to be like, I want to fit this out and put all these things in and make it all groovy.
Yeah, just start slowly.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you just sort of do minimal stuff.
That's a good point as well, because everyone's in a rush to get in and get everything done and like have it all set up, and it's like just move in, get your sort of basics in, and then.
And same with like built-in things. I think they can look groovy, and the architects are obsessed with sort of doing built-in joinery and stuff. I think it's kind of nice, maybe doing a bit less sometimes. And you could have like just a nice little couch in here. And
go for a floor drobe.
Floor drobe.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen any like tiny house layouts that you really liked?
This one is the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's so bare. I think No, I don't know. How about you?
It's too many to choose from. There's so many ideas out there for tiny houses. And
I mean, I was just talking about
designs.
vans because vans, it's kind of the same thing, right? It's
Yeah.
like a tiny house. It's on wheels. You have a sliding door instead of this door. It's like
Yeah. I mean, I keep going back to the studio I used to live in, like that, from my own experience. I'd do something similar. The loft up there, I'd have a little table here.
Yeah.
I spent most of my time at the table, so you've got this beautiful view.
Would
That's
you need
why-
to have a toilet inside? I guess it depends on the location.
It depends on
because
the location. You can have a
Yeah,
long
yeah.
drop if you're on a piece of land. You can have a long drop somewhere, and that would be fine.
Same with showering.
Yeah, but you could put like a little toilet shower or something or other in one of the corners back here. Would probably be a good spot for it. A little kitchenette somewhere.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you're being there long term, I think those creature comforts are probably important.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I think the nice thing about a tiny house is definitely like it's a house as opposed to a van or a small
yeah,
city. It really
yeah.
feels like we're in here. We've been in here. It feels like a small house.
Yeah, and that's
It really
without
does.
it being insulated or anything. But it would be it's a very cozy little space to be in for sure. And it presents as a house as well from the outside. It has this it looks like a building. It looks like a home. So there's that, which is important. Coming home to a home.
Yeah. I definitely felt judged when I was sort of getting into my van and people see you getting in and give you some sort of a mixture of sympathy and like anger. Just yeah. Which is I mean, you get used to it after a while, but I definitely wouldn't have it if I lived in this place.
So what else? What do we need? Else do we need to cover?
Yeah, has anyone got any questions?
Yeah,
It'd be great.
questions.
We didn't really stress this at the beginning, but hopefully someone is watching.
We definitely have people watching.
Surely, right? Hopefully there's one person watching, and if you are watching, send in some questions. It'd be great to hear from if anybody's looking to bid. But as we said, there was a $20,000.
There's been a $20,000 bid, already. The bidding's been open since I think it was Thursday, and then it goes live.
We have one question.
Yes.
If you were to insulate it,
Yes.
how much floor space would you lose? I don't think it'd be.
None.
No, I think you just put it in the
None. So the insulation goes, so insulation goes within the studs here, and then you clad on top of that. So you would lose no floor space. 18 mil, depending on how big your cladding is.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't lose any floor space. It'd be exactly the same. Next question.
Do you need a powerful vehicle to move it?
You do. Yeah, you do. In fact, I've got that open here. So you need a towing capacity of at least 3 tons. So I'll list off a couple, just so you might like a Mitsubishi Pajero, Holden, Colorado, Jeep Grand Cherokee, Nissan Patrol, Land Rover, Toyota Land Cruiser. So a big kind of 4-wheel drive kind of car. So you do need a pretty sizable vehicle to move it. But like Ash was saying earlier, I think depending on when you want to move it, you can hire a car to do that. This is a movable home, but it's not necessarily designed as a caravan. It's more something like the beauty of the tiny houses is anyone can build them on the back of the trailer. They don't need the DA approval that other things, other buildings need. So it's an accessible way for people to build their own homes, to build cheaply, but they're not necessarily designed to take on the road for a trip around Australia. It's you take them to your property, live there.
I guess even one move could justify building it on a trailer, right? If you're in a place for a few years.
One thing I've always thought about is what about bushfires? If you're in a bushfire prone area, that might be a good way to get your house out of the area in a particularly bad season. Just drive it away.
Yeah. That's so easy.
It's that easy.
There's a question about light indicators for the trailer. Like if you are driving it, are there?
Yeah. The trailer's it's hooked up. So you hook it up to the I'm not sure if all trailers do it, but a trailer of this size, by law, you have to have those indicators and everything built in, and that comes with the trailer. So you plug it into the back of your car, and I think most of those vehicles that have a larger towing capacity would be set up to have like an electronic plug, like a plug to put those electrics in.
And you're not going to get registered without having those, or the trailer's not going to get registered without
Yeah,
being
so we had to have all that stuff. So it meets all the specifications that you need for the registration that it's got for a trailer of this size.
Yeah. And so, as we said, the trailer's brand new, so it would come equipped with all those things. If you were to buy a trailer secondhand, Again, it comes down to us balancing recycling things and how much work you need to put in them. The money you save on materials, you pay for in labour, the
Yeah.
labour that you're going to put in. So if you get an old trailer and it's all sort of rusted through, particularly like the structural elements,
And it's a safety thing as well. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
building a very large structure on that. I mean, if you're handy with that sort of stuff and you kind of understand metal, that's a little bit outside my wheelhouse. Yeah, by all means, get a second-hand trailer if you're confident that you can do it. But we've chosen a new one just for safety, a bit of ease. We got them to paint it. The second one I painted it, so we paid for someone else to paint it this time. It's much easier.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was like 2 days of me lying on my back.
Yeah, right.
Good 2 days.
They also say like the roof sheeting. I think this is all secondhand, but a similar sort of thing in that
Yeah.
metal, because it can last a long time if it's quite damaged. You got to sort of weigh up, I guess, the cost and environmental impact versus sort of the longevity of.
Yeah, and if you are doing your own a tiny house, you want to make sure it's good quality stuff, like that it's not going to let water in. So you have to be careful about that. You can plug old holes from roofing with screws, like new roofing screws of a larger diameter, or put a bit of like a batten underneath it and screw it on to plug them. I think they've used as well. They've actually cut out some little bits of corrugated iron and laminated them onto the top over some holes
Oh, yeah.
and screwed them on as well.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful about that, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's definitely doable.
Yeah.
For sure.
How do you guys know how much wall frame flex you get when towing? Like, and if it moves, the walls when they move around when it tows, do
Yes.
they move much? Is there any risk of cracking if it's plastered or anything along that line?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I'm not sure what the flex is, like if there is what the technical amount of it is. But I wouldn't use gyprock or anything on a house like this, because there is going to be a little bit of movement, and that's taken into consideration with how it's built, like with all the tie downs. Like everything's not just it's screwed together, but it's also tied down together, because there is going to be a little bit of that movement as it moves. Like any kind of house is going to, particularly if you put it on the back of the trailer, it's going to move around. So stuff like gyprock just wouldn't work. You would get cracks. Everything would crack. Particularly on the joins and the plaster, so you'd use other cladding methods. So, like timber cladding or plywood cladding, or whatever you like really. But it'd be an alternate to just your typical kind of like gyprock internal sort of wall ceiling type thing.
Yeah,
But
we did a timber wall on the interior of one of the first ones we ever made.
Yeah.
It was just this reclaimed timber wall.
That's right, I'd forgotten about that one. We did one at 107, didn't
Yeah,
we?
years ago. That was the first one we made it as a program.
Yeah, right. Yep.
That was a cool wall.
And what were the other? Do you remember what the other walls were? Yeah.
On that one, we did actually go with plaster on that, and it worked as well. Stu has that one.
Yeah, right. And they put plaster in it.
We did gyprock with that one, and plaster between it.
Yeah.
Slight risk of cracking there, but it wasn't like it went.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, there you go. There you go. So perhaps you could. I'd probably go otherwise though, just because of that risk of movement. There are some good my dad renovated his place up the coast, and there was some. Is it VJs, vertical join sort of plywood, which is kind of has that sort of feel of gyprock, and it's quite aesthetically pleasing, and that does work
awesome.
perfectly. And again, it would add structure if you glued and screwed that or nailed that onto the wall. Then it gives an extra, cross brace.
Yeah, you said screwed or nailed, so nails have a tendency to be able to move a bit more, whereas screws can snap.
Yeah,
Screws
that is a consideration that they had to think about when building this house. So screws have less shear strength, so moving across like that. Nails are a bit more sort of malleable. They make a little bit more movement, which can be good sometimes. Screws kind of pull the joint in tighter, and they've gone for screws in this instance. But both are applicable.
Yeah.
We got a question about plumbing and how you guys would approach it for if you wanted a sink. Not necessarily the toilet situation, but like if you wanted to sink or have a kitchen in here.
Yeah.
Any recommendations on approaching that?
Well, I'd definitely try to get rainwater, get a rainwater storage tank. Currently there aren't any gutters on it. It's just running down off this side, so you could have a gutter, runs all the way along. You could probably fit a water tank on the tow bar or the drawbar at the front, so there's 1.4 metres there for extra storage. and then just plumb that into your tap and however you want to use it.
So that's a ground level though. It'd be nice if it was gravity fed.
If
but
it was
I guess
gravity
you keep
fed,
it on the
but-
ground though. Yeah.
Oh no, I wonder. I think if you're moving it, you probably want to keep it on.
Are you good at plumbing? As in copper
No.
piping?
No.
And you
But
make some sort of disconnectable connections. Shane is saying he is good at that. He's
I'm not
you
saying
are.
that,
Oh, he's
no.
not saying that. Okay.
I mean, I'm not a plumber, but you could even use some. I don't see why you couldn't use some like irrigation kind of fittings, like simple fittings like that, if it was gravity fed. Instead of a little gravity fed sort of thing that comes into.
If you know where it's going to be parked, you could have, like, if it's going to go on a property, you could have your water tank up on a hill next to where you park it.
Yeah, that's a good
You
point.
have caravan type fittings, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the point as well. Is like you could have some aspects of the tiny house, like say your solar power or your plumbing, like Shane said, and have that as components that are sort of separate to the house. And if you ever wanted to move it, just open the door, bring them in, truck off to where you want to go, and then take them out again and set up. You're not going to be moving it a lot. Like it's, these are generally homes that are just going to be in a spot, and you can build around it. You could build like simple kind of marquees for an external kitchen or for external rooms. Like you could build, like outdoor living spaces for when the weather's good. You can spend a lot of time outside in those spaces.
Yeah, totally. There was a really good documentary on the ABC, I think, on Monday. Did you watch that?
I did.
Framing the Views. This architect called Richard LaPastria, and he lives in this like timber sort of box of a house on Pittwater. And I don't know what the square metre of that internally would be, but obviously it'd be a bit bigger than this, in that it's on the ground, it's a proper house, but not a lot bigger. I would say it's probably maybe this width, maybe it's 5-6 metres wide, and then maybe, I don't know, 10 metres, and that's all it is, and there's not much inside. There's a bit of a loft as well. Then there's just decks all around it, and it's in the bush. There's no glass, no windows, just these timber panels that fold up.
Oh wow!
And so when all the walls are folded up, and then the structure's just on posts.
It's a full-on fire trap.
Yeah, it is, but it's like he's camping, and he says for a couple of months of the year it's tough, but then the rest of the months,
when it's all closed in.
or just when the weather's really bad and it's cold.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the year it's like he's outside, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
It sort of makes up for toughing it out. I also don't think that regulating your temperature to like 24 degrees or whatever the ideal air conditioned temperature is that an ideal to go for. I think muscling it with the different weathers is a nice thing. I know when I've worked in offices before, and there's been this stinking hot day, like a 40 degree, everyone talks about the weather at the end of the day. It's, oh my gosh, it was so hot today. When you're inside in the aircon all day, you kind of miss some of those things, which is just these normal experiences. And although you don't have to sit in 40 degrees,
and
you kind of...
And not to mention the energy that it consumes in doing it.
Yeah.
That's like, driving in a car with the air conditioning, I'll just put the window down and get some hot air blowing on you. Like
and
it's not that bad.
And it's more memorable.
Yeah.
More experiencing.
With this one, it's a small space and it's really well insulated.
Yeah.
It is. It won't take much energy at all, which is nice to just knock it down. If you wanted to put a little bit of heat in or a little bit of cool.
Yeah.
And if you were to take this to a cooler climate where it got colder a lot, you could get a small little potbelly stove or something in here, and a little chimney that goes out. If you wanted to install one of those, that's definitely.
And just don't suffocate yourself when you're sleeping.
Don't suffocate yourself when you're sleeping.
Use all the carbon monoxide.
Leave a window open.
Ajar. Ajar. Yeah. Leave the window ajar.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Back to plumbing though,
Yes.
because we talked about water coming in.
Mm.
What about water coming out? You have any thoughts on, so if you're washing stuff, are there any concerns that you might have for how to handle that?
Yeah, so the things that I would be enthused about, I guess, would be more the off-grid stuff. So again, we spoke about the compostable toilets. And so if you do use human manure, you don't want to use it on your veggies and things. You can use it on on trees. And things where it gets a bit more processed.
Why is that?
I would just imagine that the nutrients that are brought about from a plant, which comes about a bit quicker, you just maybe you're interacting with the actual
okay,
a bit more. Anyway, however, and then
with a sink rather than a toilet.
Yeah, with sink, so kitchen washing dishes and things, you'd have to have consideration for what you're washing. If you're using grey water, and trying to use the water that you're producing, you'd be more conscious of how much water you're using, particularly if it's connected to a water tank. And so that would be reduced.
And then disposing of that water, you could just, if you're using the right kind of detergent stuff, you could water your plants with it.
Yeah. I know that you can have charcoal-based systems, which is a good filtration device. and so you can have them to filter your urine, which doesn't work that well in the compost.
Also not applicable
toilets.
to a sink again.
No, but same with the with kitchen sort of food substances.
Fixated there.
But there's definitely lots of different ways to do it. I've just got this groovy book. This is called Retro Suburbia. It's about retrofitting your houses. It's written by David Holmgren, and he is a sort of founder of permaculture. Little promo, and he it's jam packed full of ideas about all those sorts of things. Yes, if you lived in a groovy sort of in a place on the land, there's another property we visited in country Victoria around Ballarat, and it was called Tree Elbow. They've got good blogs and things online, but they have a shower, but they don't use it that much. So in terms of the waste from that, it's not a big of an issue. They live near a lake, and it gets really cold there, and they swim there year round, which is pretty badass. They have good swale systems, which carries sort of particular sort of kitchen water through their gardens. Good composting systems. And rotating composting systems. They have that charcoal system that I spoke about. There's precedents out there that you wouldn't have to like make it up. You'd be able to work it out.
Yeah.
So we're getting towards the end.
5 minutes left. So bid. Go online if you want this beautiful house. Get online and put a bid in. Currently, there's a bid in for 20 grand. I think
that's a bit of a ballpark sort of figure to work with. I think that's a good.
I don't know if it's gone up, but it's going to cost you at least 20 grand for it. But
I know there's another tiny house company. I think it's okay to talk about this tiny house company. They built them down south, and the prices of a 7 meter, 7.2 meter trailer are around 100 grand or so.
Okay.
I know granny flats are quite expensive to build. They end up costing a lot more than you think. Like
that's all fitted out and stuff. So if you
and so if you can fit this out on the cheap, it's quite cost effective.
So before we go though, there's a survey that we'll get emailed to you. Is that right?
It's in the description.
Oh, it's in the description. If you guys can fill that out for us as well, that'd be awesome.
What's the survey about?
I think it's just about these live sessions. What we're doing.
Yeah.
We're also doing a lot of online videos. Electrical ones. We're going to be doing some in Marrickville with a bike repair, but also next week at this time at 11 we're going to have a video or a live stream about electrical maintenance. So that's going to be all about sort of non-electrical maintenance, so like cleaning dust from certain components, inspecting leads and stuff. So sort of things you guys can do to look after your stuff without actually having to get in there and and deal with the electrics.
Yeah, and then we have another. Or you're doing one.
We have one. I think.
We're
all doing it together.
And it's all about tuning our tools. We'll try to get Shane in because he's really good, and it's nice hearing his American accent, Canadian.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's great talking about tools, so maybe we'll force him to come on, which would be a nice refreshing change.
Right at 3, we'll get a wider lens for the social distancing.
But and all that stuff in the surveys. We've got scope to make more content at the moment.
With the fixing up the tools, we've got Gardening Australia. We're going to be part of a segment on Gardening
Australia. Are you
Australia.
going to be on that?
I might be on
with
that.
Costa.
Yeah, with Costa, with
nice.
old mate Costa.
That's
so that's kind of go. Yeah, we're going to be talking about fixing up garden tools on that. So then on the Saturday we can go into more depth for an hour about sort of fixing up. We work mainly with woodworking tools, but it's applicable for a whole range of hand tools and stuff.
Yeah.
So that'll be in 2 weeks' time, the 6th of the 6th, I believe.
6th of June.
Saturday, the 6th of the 6th.
Yep.
Let's just say 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks.
Or 2 weeks from
That's
today.
100% accurate.
Yep. And make sure if the bow is new to you, get into the shops, of course. The Parramatta store's not open. Get into the Marrickville store. It's jam-packed at the moment, but it's got lots of groovy, nice stuff in there.
And we also have another online sort of program I forgot to mention is we have one-on-one consultations, which will be starting at 1, is that right, Shane? 1 today. We've got a couple of bookings already, and it's an opportunity for you guys to actually call us and talk to us about specific repair issues that you might have one-on-one.
So that's a Zoom type chat?
That's a Zoom chat, yeah, so it's a video chat.
You might have your camera or bring whatever you're working in, like a chair, say, in front of the computer, and you can sort of show them around.
Yeah, exactly, or use your phone and bring the phone to the camera. And so this week is woodwork or furniture repair, and next week, 1 week from today, will be electrical repair. So you can talk to people about that, and they'll be able to explain to you whether they can do it or whether you can do it, or if we would like to do it for you.
But again, this tiny house, sorry we couldn't take it from outside. It actually hasn't rained.
Yeah,
so that's a bit of a shame. But I think the noise and
But it's been nice. It's been nice in here, nice and cozy.
Yeah.
Amongst the trees.
But there's lots of photos online.
Yep.
There's lots of other content, probably external to the bar about tiny houses as well.
And I don't know what I'm not exactly sure how the bidding works or the auction works, but 6 o'clock it goes live. So maybe get online and watch that process, because that'll be kind of exciting as well.
Yeah.
It's exciting for us to sell our little baby.
Yep.
Yeah, and how we.
And
Thanks.
thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching. I think that's it.
Is that
I
a
think we're done.
question, Ash? Thank you
Thank
for
you.
watching.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah, no, we do. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully someone's watching, as I said earlier. And it has been good doing this, and I
Yes.
hope it's been great. Do
It
the
has.
survey, let us know.
Please
if I'm
do,
saying
yeah.
too much, which is maybe an issue with the last one,
if
is
you
that
say,
fine?
that's fine. Don't
Okay,
worry.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Or like squirming.
But yeah,
too
let
much.
us know what you want to see and what you want to learn about, and if we can share that with you,
Yeah.
we'd be happy to.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hooray.
See you later.
Bye. Yes.
Goodbye.
There's